already know, I am half Japanese, and for my Japanese American family, New Year's is a pretty big deal. For obvious reasons, our New Year's celebration was dramatically scaled down this year, but even so, I wanted to give you a peek into what my family does for New Year's. I'm Yonsei, fourth generation Japanese American. My grandmother's family moved to the US when her older sisters were very young, and I believe she was born here. Like many Japanese Americans, our family traditions differ a bit from those in Japan, and are also heavily influenced by Hawaii. A lot of families still do the full osechi ryori, which is a variety of foods traditionally eaten on New Year's, packed in a jubako, which is essentially a big fancy bento box. My family never really did the full osechi ryori, but there are 3 things that are an absolute must for our New Year's celebrations: mochi, kuromame, and sushi. In my family, mochi is supposed to be the first thing you eat in the new year to bring good luck. When we were younger, we would buy pre-made mochi from the local Japanese supermarket and eat it with shoyu and sugar. These days, my mom makes her own mochi using a shortcut that involves cooked rice and a stand mixer on New Year's Eve every year. Then, on New Year's morning, she makes ozoni, a light soup made from dashi with her fresh-made mochi and a little bit of spinach. My mom takes care of the mochi, but my job for the last decade or so has been the sushi and the kuromame. Kuromame are black soybeans cooked in a sweetened shoyu sauce. They're usually part of the osechi ryori spread, and they are eaten for good health. When I was a kid, every New Year's someone would buy a small can of kuromame, and we would all dutifully eat our single black bean. But nobody really liked it. That all changed when I started making the kuromame. Way back in 2012, my friend Rachel Hutchings and I decided to do a podcast all about Japanese food. And our very first episode was all about Japanese New Year food. Before then, I had never thought to make the kuromame, but she had a recipe on her blog. So the next year, I tried making them. I have never seen my family eat so much kuromame, and still to this day, every year they ask to make sure that I'm making them. I've slightly adapted Rachel's recipe to use the slow cooker, which means I can prep it on New Year's Eve and then wake up to the smell of kuromame throughout the house. If you want the recipe, it is on my blog and the link to that is below. Last, but absolutely not least, we have an absolute feast of sushi. A lot of families in the South Bay area of Los Angeles will be familiar with Sake Sushi in Gardena. They're open year-round, but come December, they become the New Year's sushi place. You'd have to get your order in December 1st, because otherwise you would run a serious risk of missing out. And then on December 31st, off we'd go to this teeny tiny little takeout-only restaurant across from Pacific Square Marketplace to pick up 2 or 3 big cardboard boxes filled with sushi. Of course, ever since I started a sushi blog back in 2006, all of a sudden it's my responsibility to make all the sushi for the family. In an ordinary year, this would mean battling the crowds at our local Japanese supermarket to pick up sashimi and any other last-minute ingredients, spending all day New Year's Eve prepping kuromame and 7-layer dip and any sushi ingredients that can be prepared ahead, and then getting up at the crack of dawn to make dozens of rolls of sushi and pieces of inari to the sound of the Rose Parade before the whole extended family shows up at noon. This year, I got to sleep in, but Mom still wanted sushi for her socially distanced New Year, and I was happy to deliver. Normally, I would make a total of 4 dozen rolls of 10 different types of sushi and 3 dozen inari for 15 to 20 people. This year, 2 dozen rolls, 5 dozen inari for a total of 6 people. The very first sushi roll I make every year is the kappa. You might assume that the name of this roll, which is a very simple cucumber roll, comes from the Japanese word for cucumber. However, The Japanese word for cucumber is kyuri. A kappa is a river monster from Japanese mythology who, when they're not eating human livers, happen to love cucumber. My mom has to have this roll every year. Is my mom secretly a kappa monster? Does that make me half kappa? Babe, do you mind if I borrow your liver just for a bit? Next, we've got the bacon crunchy shrimp roll. This is a roll that I came up with all the way back in 2007, about a year after I started my SushiDay blog. This roll came about because we had a bunch of random ingredients left over from making other sushi, and then we added bacon. American-style bacon is not super common in Japan, so you wouldn't be wrong to think that this is a strange sushi ingredient. In fact, it's fairly uncommon to find a wide range of maki-style sushi at all in Japan's sushi restaurants. Single ingredient rolls like kappa or tekkemaki are widely found, and less commonly, you'll find things like futomaki, which we'll get to in a minute, or ehomaki, which is an uncut sushi roll filled with lucky ingredients that's meant to be eaten whole while facing that year's lucky direction on February 3rd every year. It may not be traditional, but then again, most sushi rolls aren't. But you know what it is? Delicious. Bacon, tempura shrimp, avocado, green onion, and Kewpie mayo. This is by far my most loved and most requested roll, and if I didn't make it for New Year's, my entire family would riot. You may have noticed that all my sushi rolls have an odd number of fillings. I taught myself to make sushi. No one in my family really made sushi before I started the blog in 2006, so this isn't something I was ever directly taught. However, I have had other Japanese American friends tell me how their bachan taught them that it's bad luck to have an even number of ingredients in sushi rolls. Lucky or not, it is traditional for maki rolls in Japan to always have an odd number of ingredients in the roll. If you're coming up with your own sushi, keep an eye on the numbers. The last roll that we have is futomaki. This and plain inari sushi were the two things that we always got from Sake Sushi. So when I took over the sushi making, a few years later my family were like, so how about that futomaki? I'm not going to go into it completely right now because we are planning on doing another video all about futomaki coming up. So make sure to hit that sub button so you don't miss out on that. But just so you know, this is one of the few rolls that can traditionally be found in Japan. In an ordinary year, with my entire extended family coming over for New Year's, I would make a lot more rolls. California rolls, a tuna avocado roll, a vegetable roll, a spicy tofu roll, and hopefully by next New Year, I can show you how everything looks for our full New Year's celebration. But for this year, those are all the rolls I'm making. The last thing we have for this year's menu is inari sushi. Normally, when we're making sushi for the entire family, either my mom or I will make a few plain inari just in case anybody wants them. But since we weren't doing the full celebration this year, that didn't happen. Ordinarily, this is the part where I would give you some cool facts about inari sushi, but I realized I just have way too much to tell you about my favorite kind of sushi, so you can look forward to another video all about inari sushi coming up soon. Is this turning into a sushi channel again? For New Year's, I make inari sushi and then top it with either shrimp or portobello mushrooms, drizzle it with spicy mayonnaise, and then sprinkle it with green onions and sesame seeds. This one is actually my go-to easy meal because I almost always have inari pockets, rice, and frozen shrimp on hand. It looks fancy, but it's actually incredibly quick and easy to make, and so satisfyingly delicious. For an ordinary New Year's, I would also make vanilla cider and all sorts of dips, and on top of all of that, it's still a potluck, so everybody else brings so much food. This is my absolute favorite holiday because I get to host, we get to see all the family. There's so much good food. So I'm really sad that we had to miss out on it this year. So can we just collectively get our shit together? Wear your masks, stay home if you don't have to go out, be kind to our essential workers, get vaccinated as soon as you can, and hopefully next year I will be able to show you what a real Sushi Day New Year celebration looks like. As I mentioned, we have videos coming up about the futomaki and about inari sushi, so if you are not yet subbed to our channel, make sure to hit that sub button so you don't miss out on the awesome sushi videos that are coming up very, very soon. Don't forget to like this video because it does help our little channel grow, and if you know anybody else who is into sushi, make sure to share this with them so that they can check out some awesome sushi as well. We'll see you next time.